Hello everyone, and welcome to Whispering Reapers. Today we're venturing into the dark and twisted realm of carnival horror. When most people think of carnivals, they imagine colorful lights, bright balloons, cheerful music, and the smell of cotton candy drifting through the air. Many go for the exhilarating rides, the entertaining game booths, and the overall atmosphere of carefree fun. But beneath that surface of innocent merriment, there is a hidden world where nightmarish secrets, chilling encounters, and cruel fates await. In this video, we'll explore 4 haunting carnival experiences steeped in mystery and terror. These are tales shared by traumatized witnesses, inexplicable events, and real-life horror. Brace yourselves. This journey will twist your perception of carnivals forever. Some stories of carnivals are almost unbelievably frightening, recounted by those who experienced firsthand the sinister side of these joyful fairs. As the narrator of these ghostly experiences, I felt compelled to bring them to you, so that we might shine a light on what lurks behind the curtains and alleyways of these traveling shows. Tonight, you'll hear about unexplainable occurrences, mental anguish, and warnings to stay away from the illusions that carnivals sometimes hide. By the end, you might just become wary of every ride, booth, performer, and shadow inside those colorful tents. Remember, these are claimed to be true stories. We encourage you to decide for yourselves what you believe. Are they cautionary tales told to keep children from running off with strangers? Are they simply exaggerated rumors that grow with each retelling from the carnival towns? Or do they reflect genuine horrors that occasionally slip through reality's seams? The truth might lie somewhere in the middle. Whatever your conclusions, I invite you to buckle up and prepare for an unsettling ride. Our first tale takes us to a traveling carnival that appeared in a small town, bringing with it excitement for many unsuspecting families. What followed was a sequence of terrifying events that no one could have forecast. The second story plunges deep into an abandoned carnival site where daring teenagers discovered that some nightmares never die. The third account explores a horrifying misfortune on a ride that turned an amusement into a tragedy marked by eerie coincidences. Finally, our last carnival experience pushes the limits from bizarre to horrifyingly real, leaving a family shaken for life. Now let us delve into these narratives of terror. By the time you finish, you might glance at carnival attractions from a very different perspective. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss more chilling tales like these. Whispering Reapers is dedicated to bringing you the darkest stories from the depths of our nightmares, and we want everyone to share in these haunting experiences. As you listen, let a shiver crawl up your spine, let the tension mount, and open your mind to the possibility that the carnival next door might not be as benign as it appears. Prepare yourself for 4 disturbing true carnival horror stories. Feel the thick, suffocating atmosphere. Allow your heart to race as though you are riding a rickety roller coaster in the darkest hours of the night. By the final story, you might not look at carnival clowns, rides, or game booths the same way again. Gather your courage, find a warm and safe place, and join me on this nightmare-laden journey into the heart of carnival terror. This is Whispering Reapers, and these are your stories. Story 1, The Silent Carousel. I grew up in a tiny Midwestern town, the sort of place where tiny fairs and carnivals were a highlight of our summers. One year when I was about 12, a traveling carnival rolled into town in mid-July. Everyone was excited, especially me and my 2 closest friends. Summer vacation had just started, and there was little else to do other than swimming in the local lake or cycling around our quiet streets. When the carnival arrived, dozens of trucks rumbled in with rides, game booths and food stands. Bright neon lights flashed on every corner and cheerful carnival music played nearly non-stop. Like everyone else, my friends and I attended with high hopes of cotton candy, wild rides and prizes. The first evening, we ran from attraction to attraction, thrilled by the swirling teacups, the Ferris wheel and all the standard rides. However, there was one new ride in particular that dominated our attention. A carousel unlike any we had ever seen. Instead of painted horses, it had life-sized, finely detailed animals, a hissing serpent, a snarling tiger, a majestic lion, and other strange beasts carved from wood yet disturbingly realistic. Even the porcelain faces of some creatures seemed so lifelike that if you stared too long, you might expect them to blink. The carousel was tucked away in a dark corner of the carnival, not far from a cluster of towering trees that rustled in the wind. Oddly enough, we didn't hear the standard calliope music you'd expect from a carousel. Instead, each time it began rotating, there was only the faintest echo, as if the music was playing from a great distance underground. Intrigued, my friends and I decided this was absolutely the ride we had to try first. The attendant was a gaunt-faced man wearing a top hat whose narrow eyes looked straight through us, making us feel uneasy. He barely spoke. With a small nod, he let us pass, stepping onto the platform of exotic animals. We each chose a different animal. I was drawn to a glossy black panther with its mouth parted in a snarl. My friend Alex hopped onto the serpent, the coiled body detailed with scale-like designs. My other friend Lucy settled onto a tall flamingo, which might have been amusing under normal circumstances, but here it looked bizarre. The flamingo's eyes were wide, and each feather was so precisely etched it felt unnerving. We exchanged nervous laughs, thinking it was all part of the carnival's unique atmosphere. The carousel started to turn slowly at first. The entire structure moved with an almost inaudible hum, confirming that no typical bright music accompanied our ride. The lights overhead flickered once, and a hush seemed to fall over the entire carnival around us. For a moment, I thought maybe the power was going out, but the swirling overhead lights still danced across the strange animals. Then the carousel spun faster. The carnival around us blurred, and soon all my senses felt scrambled. I held onto the panther's neck for dear life. My heart pounded. The sound that accompanied this ride was a deep, throbbing pulse, like a heartbeat echoing somewhere out of sight. As it spun, I locked eyes with the panther's carved gaze. An unsettling thought crept into my mind. The animal looked far too real for a simple wooden figure. The carved muscles on its flanks, the black fur lines, the sheen in its eyes. Everything pointed to an uncanny realism. A trick of the light, perhaps. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the statue's chest might actually be moving, like it was breathing. I tried to tear my eyes away, but an irrational magnetic fear kept me transfixed. Time seemed to stall. When the ride finally shuddered to a stop, I blinked, disoriented, and looked around for Alex and Lucy. They were stumbling off the carousel, looking similarly dazed. The attendant with the top hat said nothing. He only tipped his hat with that same disconcerting smile. We left in a hurry, not joking or laughing as we usually might. Something about that ride chilled us to the bone. Over the next several days, we tried to enjoy the carnival, but we couldn't ignore the quiet pull of that strange carousel. Late one afternoon, Lucy dared us to ride it again. We refused, not wanting to relive that bizarre experience. Lucy teased us, calling us cowards. She said we were letting our imaginations run wild. Eventually, Lucy's adventurous side won out, and she decided she would ride the carousel alone just to prove there was nothing to fear. Alex and I watched from a short distance away as Lucy hopped onto the flamboyant flamingo again. We heard no music, just that same subterranean hum as the ride sprang to life. The carousel sped up. Lucy waved at us once, but then clutched her seat as the momentum increased. The lights flickered more aggressively this time. The top hat attendant stood statue-like, not even checking if Lucy was okay. We saw Lucy go around and around in a blur, her ponytail whipping behind her. Then the overhead lights cut out for a fraction of a second. When they came back on, the carousel was winding down to a stop, but Lucy was gone. The flamingo was vacant, drifting up and down as the ride slowed. Panic tore through me. Alex and I rushed to the carousel, shouting Lucy's name. The attendant just tilted his head, grinning in that unnerving way. We jumped onto the platform, searching for Lucy. We called her name, stepping among the carved animals, our eyes scanning every inch. She wasn't there. Some of the other carnival goers, seeing our distress, ran to help, yet Lucy seemed to have vanished into thin air. We asked the attendant where she went. He shrugged without uttering a single sound. Terrified, Alex and I ran to get help from the carnival management. They launched a frantic search. They checked behind booths, inside ride operator stations, even outside the carnival perimeter. Nothing. Lucy was nowhere to be found. The police arrived, shutting down the carousel and eventually closing the carnival early. Parents demanded answers, but there were none. It was as if Lucy had disappeared in a single heartbeat. In the days that followed, entire search parties scoured the nearby countryside and town. The woods were checked, abandoned barns were investigated. Lucy was listed as a missing person. The carnival tried to continue, but the gloom of Lucy's disappearance put a damper on everything. People avoided the carousel, which was still taped off by the authorities. Detective after detective came and went, baffled by the lack of evidence. Then, one night, before the carnival was supposed to leave, a fierce storm tore through the area with high winds and heavy rain. By morning, the carnival had vanished, leaving only muddy tire tracks and a sense of overwhelming dread. No one saw them pack up. It was as though they melted into the storm, along with all their rides and booths. 3 months rolled by. Lucy remained missing, and our town was never the same. Alex and I lived under a cloud of guilt and fear, tormented by images of that silent carousel. The top hat attendant's grin would come to us in nightmares. Sometimes I would dream of Lucy riding that flamingo, except in my dream, the flamingo was alive, twisting its head around to glare at her. I could hear Lucy's screams echo in my mind when I woke. It was like they were still there, ringing in my ears, even though the room was silent. A year later, rumors of a traveling carnival fitting the same description surfaced 2 states over. People reported a similarly eerie carousel with lifelike animals. Too lifelike, some said. Locals claimed that an 8-year-old boy vanished without explanation while riding it. Despite the police inquiries, no solid leads emerged. And just like before, the carnival vanished again in the middle of the night. I wish I had a conclusive ending to give you, or a reason for how Lucy was lost, but all I have are these facts. Lucy disappeared, the carousel was unbelievably strange, and there have been rumors of similar occurrences. To this day, I still flinch whenever I see a carnival advertisement, especially if it mentions a carousel. My mind instantly replays that hidden corner, that flicker of lights, and that dreadful moment we realized Lucy was gone. If you ever come across a traveling carnival like that, I can only urge you, stay away from the silent carousel. Growing up in the rural South, one local legend was always whispered among teens looking for a scare. A decade prior, there had been a carnival that set up on the outskirts of town near an old dried-up creek bed. One night, for reasons unknown, a terrible accident happened, or so the rumor said. The official story was that a clown car, one of those tiny vehicles from which dozens of clowns emerge, had a malfunction while preparing for a performance. The resulting fire killed several clowns inside. The carnival abruptly closed, and the area where it stood was abandoned. Kids in town used to dare each other to explore the vacant field after dark, in hopes of glimpsing the ghost clowns rumored to haunt the place. It sounded absurd at first, Ghost clowns. Even for local legends, it felt a bit too bizarre. Nonetheless, my friend group and I, being reckless high school seniors, decided we would spend Halloween night investigating the site. We would bring flashlights, cameras, and plenty of bravado. We arrived shortly before midnight. The abandoned ground was overgrown with weeds, littered with decaying bits of wood, tattered tarps, and rusted poles. We found the burnt-out shell that was rumored to be the clown car, a twisted mass of rusted metal barely recognizable as a vehicle. It rested in a shallow ditch that might have once been part of the creek. The moonlight cast bizarre shadows on its charred surface. Since we were typical teenagers, we made jokes and tried to scare each other. One of my friends put on a ridiculous clown wig as a gag, prancing around the wreckage pretending to honk an imaginary horn. We snapped cell phone pictures, hoping to catch something supernatural, but we mostly just ended up laughing at the silly poses. However, as the minutes ticked by, our false confidence began to waver. The temperature, it seemed to drop drastically. Our breath became visible in the cold night air. Then we lost signal on our phones, which was odd, because we typically got decent reception there. A creeping unease gripped us. We huddled together, shining our flashlights around the area. The taller weeds stirred in the still air, and the unexplainable sense that we weren't alone pressed in on us. Standing near the wreckage of that small car, my heart hammered in my chest. It felt as though something was about to happen. One of my friends made a half-joking comment. What if the ghost clowns come crawling out of that car right now? We forced nervous laughter. Suddenly we heard what sounded like muffled giggles. Faint and raspy, as if coming from a distance, they echoed from somewhere near the wreckage. We all froze. My flashlight trembled as I panned across the area, illuminating only weeds and collapsed tents. But the sound persisted, traveling around us in an eerie circle. The abandoned Carnival stood silently under the moonlight, its once vibrant colors now faded and ghostly. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, broken only by the occasional creak of rusted metal and the distant hoot of an owl. It was a place long forgotten by time, yet it held an unsettling allure, drawing us in with a sense of morbid curiosity. But nobody admitted to anything. The laughter continued, rising in pitch and intensity, sounding far too real to be a simple echo. As we strained to see in the darkness, one of my friends noticed a flicker of movement near a rusty piece of carnival equipment. Our lights converged, revealing someone creeping along in tattered clown attire. The costume was grimy, faded with time, and the clown's face paint was cracked and peeling, as if it had been left on for years. The figure moved awkwardly, stumbling but determined, as if drawn by some single-minded urge. My blood turned to ice. This couldn't be a normal person messing with us. The face was too pale, the eyes glinted with a ghastly glow when our beams caught them. Our group panicked. Some whispered that it could be a squatter living here, or maybe just an elaborate prank. But the primal dread surging through me said otherwise. We decided to ease back to the car and leave before anything else could happen. But as we turned to leave, the giggles grew louder, now coming from multiple directions. It was as if a chorus of hushed, deranged laughter surrounded us, echoing from remnants of old rides and booths. Flashlights darted around, but we struggled to see who or what was making that sound. In a surge of panic, we sprinted through the field. We crashed through tall weeds, stumbling over debris. Our hearts thundered in our ears. That maniacal giggling followed us, accompanied by gasps and squeals. Some of us thought we saw multiple clown-like figures emerging from behind crates and tattered canvas, all wearing decaying costumes from that carnival long forgotten. Their movement was unnatural, as if their limbs were stiff from disuse, yet they lurched with horrifying determination. Reaching our vehicles felt like a miracle. We jumped inside, locked the doors, and fumbled with the ignition. That laughter didn't subside, though. As we turned on the headlights, we saw glimpses of silhouettes darting away into the gloom. One figure lingered, turning slowly to stare at us. Through the grubby windshield, I could see that its clown makeup was half melted, revealing a twisted expression that was far from human. Its eyes were wide, and its lips parted to let out a silent cackle. We peeled out of there so fast, dust and gravel went flying. Back at my house, it took hours before we felt calm enough to attempt sleep. We tried to rationalize what we'd seen. Could they have been homeless individuals wearing old costumes? Could the laughter have been an echo in the field? No logical explanation sat well with us, especially when one friend checked his phone's pictures and found unexpected anomalies. A few shots showed orbs of light swirling near the car wreck, but one horrifying photo captured in the corner a pale clown face looming behind us, even though we hadn't seen anyone at that moment. The face was half melted, the grin twisted in an expression of pure malice. None of us returned to that field, and we warned younger students never to go. Over time, we heard from other curious daredevils who visited the site. Some claimed they saw footprints in the mud near the wreckage that looked like oversized clown shoes. Others heard the same ghostly giggles or moans. Rumors of the tragic clown car accident persisted, fueling the idea that those clowns never truly left. They might be doomed to roam that forsaken carnival ground, waiting for anyone foolish enough to wander in after dark. Even all these years later, when I drive by that old field, a chill creeps up my spine. One quick glance at the brush-filled land is enough to make me hit the gas and speed by. There's a reason you don't see many new subdivisions or developments there. The land is rumored to be cursed, impregnated with the restless spirits of forgotten performers whose final show ended in unimaginable horror. Let this tale be a warning to anyone tempted by ghost stories in abandoned carnival lots. Some places are left forgotten for a reason. Story 3, the Twisted Ferris Wheel Incident. I was 17 when the carnival tragedy occurred in my hometown. It was late summer and the traveling carnival had set up in the county fairgrounds. Like most teens, I was excited for the Ferris wheel, an iconic ride that soared high above the fair, providing a romantic vantage point of the entire area. My boyfriend at the time, Mark, decided we'd go on the Ferris wheel at sunset, hoping for a picturesque view. We lined up behind families and couples, feeling warm inside at the thought of that gentle ride. The Ferris wheel itself was impressively tall, its steel frame painted a vibrant red and lined with bright lights that pulsed in a mesmerizing pattern. The gondolas were small, enclosed cages rather than the open seats with a bar across your lap. That detail seemed charming, like having a private booth for the ride. We watched it spin gracefully in the sky as the setting sun cast a warm glow on everything. The Ferris wheel ride, a timeless carnival attraction, beckoned us with its promise of breathtaking views and a touch of nostalgia. The gentle hum of the machinery and the distant laughter of carnival goers set the stage for an unforgettable evening. Our turn finally arrived. Two attendants, both sporting matching red vests and forced smiles, ushered us into one of the gondolas. Mark and I settled onto the bench, the cage door latched behind us. Once a few more passengers were loaded, the Ferris wheel started its slow rotation. We rose higher, the carnival lights below twinkling as dusk fell. It was beautiful and serene. Mark put an arm around me and we exchanged content smiles as the top of the wheel offered a sweeping view of our small town. Suddenly, the ride jerked to an unexpected halt near the top. Mark and I exchanged a confused glance. But these minor stops usually happen when other passengers are being loaded or unloaded at the bottom. We assumed it was routine. The purple sky around us turned a darker shade as the sun finally dipped below the horizon. Minutes passed. The Ferris wheel remained still. Concerned murmurs drifted up from the crowd below. A crackle of static echoed through hidden speakers in our gondola. Then a cheerful voice apologized for the delay, claiming a minor technical glitch. They said they'd have us moving again shortly, so we tried to remain calm. From our elevated vantage point, we saw carnival staff scurrying around the wheel's base. More minutes passed. The once peaceful atmosphere began to feel tense. The lights on the Ferris wheel flickered oddly a few times, heightening the sense that something was seriously wrong. Then the overhead lights dimmed completely, leaving us in near darkness. A collective gasp rose from the crowd below. Mark flicked on his phone's flashlight to see better, but it only illuminated our small cage. The hush that followed was suffocating. We could sense the confusion and fear in the air. Without the lights, the carnival below seemed like a ghost town full of looming silhouettes. A sudden jolt made our gondola swing violently. I gripped Mark's arm, panic surging through me. Another jolt came, more powerful this time, causing the metal to creak under the strain. We heard distant shouts from the crowd. The Ferris wheel began to move again, but in a very unstable, halting manner. Each motion felt as if the mechanism was on the verge of tearing itself apart. Our gondola shook so intensely that I feared we'd be thrown off. Eventually, the Ferris wheel stopped spinning again, this time at an awkward angle. My heart was hammering in my chest. That was when we heard a snapping sound beneath us. It echoed through the metal beams. A massive cable slithered into view. Sparks flew as the snapped cable whipped across the structure. Screams erupted from below. We felt the entire Ferris wheel tilt to one side, as though it might topple over. I clung to Mark, tears streaming down my face. The once inert Ferris wheel became a potential death trap suspended precariously. Amid the bedlam, another cable snapped, the sound like thunder. The wheel groaned, metal bending in protest. People on the ground shouted for the ride operators to shut it down completely, but it seemed too late. Emergency lights flashed in the distance, likely paramedics and firefighters racing toward the scene. I prayed we wouldn't plunge from the top. The jarring movements continued, culminating in a thunderous metallic screech that left my ears ringing. Miraculously, the Ferris wheel didn't fully collapse, but several gondolas near the bottom wrenched loose and slammed to the ground. We could see them dangling precariously before free-falling, captured by the carnival lights flickering back to life in brief patches. The screams of onlookers were heartbreaking. The chaos below was impossible to fully register, a swirl of panic, tears, and desperate attempts to rescue people. In that moment, I truly thought we might die. Mark held me tightly, promising that somehow we'd get out of this. Then, as if guided by something beyond explanation, the battered Ferris wheel settled. It jammed in place, leaning at a terrifying angle, but at least it stopped moving. First responders arrived on the scene in a flurry of sirens and shouting. Firefighters raised ladder trucks to rescue passengers trapped in the upper gondolas. I couldn't feel my legs. Anxiety froze my body, but Mark kept squeezing my hand, whispering words of reassurance. After what felt like an eternity, a rescue worker reached our gondola. Their face, lit by a flashlight, brought a wave of relief. They pried open the stuck latch and helped us climb onto a suspended platform attached to the ladder. Fear gnawed at me with each step down, but eventually we reached solid ground. Only then did I look back at the Ferris wheel, half collapsed, twisted, and looming like a menacing specter. Several gondolas had broken free. Carnage and confusion were all around. Later, news reports labeled it a catastrophic mechanical failure. The ride operator claimed everything had been inspected earlier that day, but investigators found corroded cables and a series of neglected maintenance issues. Tragically, 2 people lost their lives when their gondola fell. Others were seriously injured. I couldn't walk near a Ferris wheel for years after that. The image of those broken cables, the screeching metal, and knowing how close we came to falling from the sky still haunts me. Tragically, 2 people lost their lives when their gondola fell. Others were seriously injured. I couldn't walk near a Ferris wheel for years after that. The image of those broken cables, the screeching metal, and knowing how close we came to falling from the sky still haunts me. Ever since that day, I've been acutely aware that the appearance of safety at carnivals can be dangerously misleading. Those twisting steel beams remain etched in my memory. I discovered later that this Ferris wheel had a long, checkered history of mechanical problems. It changed owners multiple times, traveling under different carnival operators who apparently skimped on repairs. Numerous rumors swirled that the ride was cursed, each meltdown or accident a retribution for ignoring proper safety. Whether or not such a curse exists, I can't argue with the haunting sense that this machine was bound to fail eventually, and it did so in the most horrific way imaginable. If you ever find yourself waiting to board a towering ride that's been hauled from town to town, take a moment to remember what happened here. Terrible events can unveil themselves in the blink of an eye. Story 4. The Huntsman's Maze. A few summers ago, my parents, my younger sister Claire and I were excited to attend a traveling carnival that boasted a brand new interactive attraction called the Huntsman's Maze. Story 4. The Huntsman's Maze. A few summers ago, my parents, my younger sister Claire and I were excited to attend a traveling carnival that boasted a brand new interactive attraction called the Huntsman's Maze. According to local talk, it was a labyrinth of fabrics, props and illusions with a huntsman character chasing you inside. It sounded like a funhouse with a twist. Instead of wandering aimlessly, visitors had to find clues to escape while being pursued by a performer dressed as a menacing huntsman. People raved about its immersive design, describing vivid sets, hidden corridors, and an adrenaline rush that lingered long after you found your way out. We arrived at the carnival on a pleasantly warm evening. The smell of funnel cakes and popcorn greeted us, and the air was loud with the sounds of laughter and mechanical rides. There was a line for the Huntsman's Maze, so we patiently queued. Carnival staff near the line explained in excited voices how we would truly feel hunted. My sister, typically timid, was unsure, but my parents reassured her it was all make-believe. We had no idea how horrifyingly real it would feel once inside. At last, our turn came. We stepped through an ornate archway. Inside, the corridor was dimly lit, displaying fake trees and vines that gave a forest-like vibe. Sound effects of rustling leaves and distant howls created a tense atmosphere. A staff member welcomed us and explained the rules. We'd follow the path, look for clues to solve a puzzle, and if we heard footsteps or a sharp whistle, that meant the huntsman was near and we should hide or run. We were told it would last about 15 minutes, and if we got truly lost, there were discreet helpers inside who would guide us or escort us out. Following the path, we quickly found ourselves at a fork, one corridor draped in leaves, and another in flickering lanterns. We chose the leaf-draped path first. The walls felt narrow, the overhead netting giving the illusion of an ominous canopy. We spotted a wooden sign with an engraved clue about a stag's horn leading the way. My sister chuckled at the theatrics, but I couldn't deny that the tension in the air felt very real. As we pressed forward, a loud whistle pierced the silence. We froze. From somewhere behind us came heavy footsteps. My father motioned for us to hurry down the corridor. Our hearts pounded as we zigzagged between partitions hung with thick burlap. Suddenly, a figure wearing a dark cloak and a realistic deer skull for a mask stepped into our path. We screamed. The figure let out a menacing growl and lunged toward us. Claire nearly collapsed in fear, and my father had to drag her along as we veered into another corridor. I almost laughed in relief, thinking that must be the huntsman. But then we encountered another masked character, wearing black tattered robes and a muzzle shaped like an animal's snout. My mother stifled a shriek. We whipped around to retrace our steps, but realized we were in a maze with little idea which way to go. For the next few minutes, we were chased through claustrophobic corridors by these masked huntsmen. At times, we'd hear them behind the walls, hissing or rattling, letting out guttural snarls that echoed. The decor was alarmingly realistic, with faux blood spatters on the walls, dismembered mannequins, and twisted tree limbs overhead. It felt like we'd gone from a carnival attraction into a genuine house of horrors. The illusions, so unnervingly lifelike that each twist and turn sent a jolt of panic through us. We found ourselves in a small clearing-like space with a puzzle station set up, a chest locked with a combination. Painted on the chest was an image of antlers, which recalled the earlier clue about a stag's horn. We tried to decipher the combination based on an arrangement of numbers scrawled on the wall. My mother fumbled with the lock while my father glared down the corridor, keeping an eye out for the huntsman. My sister clung to my arm so tightly it hurt. Eventually, we cracked the puzzle and the chest opened. Inside, we found a small key. We had no idea what it unlocked, but we scooped it up, hoping it would help us escape. Suddenly, a sharp whistle echoed in the corridor behind us. The huntsman's silhouette appeared. He was taller than before, his shape contorted by the flickering lantern light. He wore a mask resembling a skeletal canine. My mother screamed, and we dashed into a side passage. The huntsman sprang after us, arms outstretched. I swear I could feel the swirl of air as he reached for me, just missing my shoulder. That corridor led to what looked like a dead end, with patterned fabric walls. My father yanked on one of the panels, revealing a hidden door. Relieved, we slipped through. Inside was a small chamber outfitted like a medieval torture room in miniature, complete with chains on the walls. A figure in the corner, presumably another staff member in costume, stirred and moaned. We were sure it was just an actor, but the reek of something foul made my stomach flip. It smelled like decay and mold. The actor's eyes snapped open and they hissed at us, crawling forward in an unnerving, spider-like manner. Claire was sobbing. We darted past, racing to another exit on the far side. Finally, we reached what we believed was the exit, a heavy wooden door locked by a similar mechanism we'd seen in the puzzle area. We inserted the key from the chest, but it didn't fit. My parents fumbled around, checking if there was a hidden lever. The whistle sounded again, much closer. We braced ourselves for another terrifying confrontation. My father pressed some hidden mechanism near the door's frame. With a loud click, the door opened a crack. We scrambled outside into a narrow corridor lined with black curtains. We emerged into the carnival again, panting, sweaty, and utterly traumatized. My sister was trembling, tears running down her cheeks. My mother looked pale with fear. We quickly found a carnival employee in a standard uniform and tried to complain that the attraction was too terrifying and realistic. But they seemed confused, claiming that the huntsmen inside weren't supposed to physically chase or corner visitors. They apologized, explaining that perhaps a few costumed staff members got too into character. We insisted that the authenticity felt way beyond normal, that the sets and stench were disturbingly real. They reassured us that it was all carefully planned illusions. We were exhausted and disoriented, so we left in a hurry, not staying for any further rides. When we spoke to others who tried the Huntsman's Maze, they described it as a cleverly designed but still typical haunted maze experience. No one else reported seeing the horrifying skeleton masks or the dismembered mannequins and stench we encountered. Some people even said the huntsman just sort of crept around, shining a flashlight in corners, never lunging aggressively. Confusion and doubt set in. Did we enter a section of the maze we weren't supposed to? Or was there another group of performers staging their own twisted performance that night? I can't shake the feeling that something was off about that attraction. It was as though we wandered into a deeper level of the maze not intended for ordinary guests, a hidden realm that tapped into something genuinely malevolent. My sister, once a bright and funny child, developed severe nightmares, especially about figures in dark robes or skeletal masks. To this day, she refuses to attend any carnival or haunted house. My parents, embarrassed and unsure of what we stumbled into, hardly speak of that night, perhaps hoping to forget. But I remember. I remember the smell, the fear, the elusive huntsman whistling in the corridor. If it was truly all an act, it was the most horrifying performance I've ever witnessed. We've come to the end of these 4 disturbing carnival horror stories: the silent carousel, the forgotten clown car, the twisted Ferris wheel incident, and the huntsman's maze. Each tale offers a glimpse into the darker side of carnivals, unveiling hidden terrors and worst-case scenarios that you hope never to experience. These stories serve as warnings about the illusions we often accept without question. Whether by supernatural force, mechanical failure, or twisted human design, carnivals can hold unimaginable horrors beneath their bright lights and festive colors. Some of you might shrug off these accounts as urban legends or nightmares fueled by overactive imaginations. But for those who have witnessed odd occurrences at carnivals or fairs, these stories might ring eerily true. It's easy to overlook safety concerns or suspicious behavior when you're caught up in the fun and excitement. Nevertheless, the next time a carnival arrives in your town, take a moment to remember these cautionary tales. It might just save you from a brush with the unexpected. Thank you for joining me here at Whispering Reapers. Let us know in the comments which part of these stories you find the most terrifying. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more horrifying stories and chilling explorations. Be sure to keep your eyes open and your curiosity sharp, because you never know what real nightmares might be lurking somewhere within the carnival of your own town. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time, keep your wits about you. The night is full of secrets waiting just beyond the flashing lights.